Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 22nd of March, comes to you from London. And quite a lot of green on the screen for equities. So we're seeing, the market really taking things in its stride, given all that's happening in the world. We're seeing commodities lower. We're seeing Brent crude and some of the gold and silver elements lower. So it just tells us at a glance that equities are looking favorable and commodities are doing the reverse. And if we look through the energy mix, we'll look at that in a minute. We're seeing here a bit of a pullback in commodities. So first of all, looking at the dollar, it's back to short-term strong. Remembering this is my weekly, daily, and 60-minute chart with the corresponding point and figure target. So dollar strength is very much the long-term theme, and the short-term will flip in and out of that theme, but predominantly will go with the trend. Looking at the euro, we're just nudging this 110 level again. We have been below the 110 this morning, and that is just a psychologically important level for the euro, and we are seeing prices pushing lower. And against the yen, the dollar is really rocketing. So we are. This is normally a sign of a lead indicator for dollar strength. This is to do with yen weakness, and we are just seeing here that target now 34% higher is activated. So really running away there. Looking at sterling, sitting at 131.86, just have held this 130 level as a support level, so that's the level to watch. But we are just slowly falling through the cloud, the dollar strength having the upper hand. And against the euro, sterling is actually pushing back up to that 120 level, so that's quite key as well. Looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting at $42,000, still holding the short-term bullish, and about to just come through the cloud on the daily, and looks like support on the weekly. So interesting transition going on there with Bitcoin, and that is quite interesting to see. Looking at the S&P 500 index, virtually unchanged yesterday. 0.04% change, so just holding steady. A little bit of a double bottom showing there on the cloud chart, but we are just again short-term bullish, medium-term still bearish. Beware the lower high, lower low. That's the scenario we have to watch. The futures this morning, we're seeing the S&P future up 0.4%, the Nasdaq up nearly 0.5%, and the VIX volatility has dropped into the low 20s. So we are just seeing that falling back. But still the trend longer term is up for the VIX, so that's quite key. Taking a look at the European markets, we've got the FTSE future up 0.4%, the DAX, cash in Germany up 1%, still has to get above 15,000 in order to be bullish again. We are short-term bullish, but a lot of work to do to get medium-term bullish. The CAC Quarante is up nearly 1%. Japan is up 1.5%. That weaker yen helping Japanese stocks. And looking at the Hang Seng, up a massive 3%. But boy, oh boy, have we had some falls in the Hang Seng. If we have a lower low here, that's going to be very, very bad for the Hong Kong market. And China is actually up as well. But again, not yet fully back into long-term bullish above the cloud. We'll look at the energy mix shortly. Wheat continues to just steadily rise. Really looks like it found a floor here, and can it make a new high? That's going to be the key thing. Corn is lower this morning, down 0.4%, having just made that new high over last year's high. Looking like a consolidation pattern before we run again. Gold sitting at 1923. 1900 is the key support level. Just struggling really to push higher, but for the moment we are medium term and long term bullish, of course. Short term we're just in the cloud, but not yet bearish. Silver sitting at 25, down 0.5%. Such a long consolidation phase. If we break out of this, it's going to be explosive for silver. Above 30, we would then go to 50 very, very quickly. Looking at the US 10-year yield sitting at 2.35%. So really just constantly nudging higher. And you've got to go to bigger box size charts to see the yield levels, and there are some very, very big targets. We'll get a pullback and a new target on this chart, but if you want to see the longer term targets, of course, you'll have to wait for you'll have to go to bigger box sizes. Looking at the energy mix now, we've got Brent crude We're neutral this morning for Brent. Here's this morning's report out to clients. So we turned neutral. That was because we had downside targets. At that point, we were up 1.4%. But now we are down 1.4%. So it just shows you can't ignore the targets. And looking at WTI, much the same picture. This range is going to be really critical for Brent crude. US nat gas sitting just steady this morning, and again we were neutral here. We've got downside and upside targets. Coal sitting at 162, not really changing very much there on the coal chart. And if we look at emissions, we are just on the wire of breaking out. So it'll be very interesting today to see emissions. We're just finding that resistance at 80. Will we roll over or can we break higher? It'll be very interesting to see. Looking at TTF, we're down this morning a third of a percent, and UK gas is down as well. And again, in the report to clients, we were bearish on both those products as a result of yesterday and the downside targets. You just can't ignore the targets. So we are just falling out of that range and sinking lower. It will be very interesting to see where emissions finds a new low. German power, we were actually bearish again this morning. We had downside targets, but we've got some new ones coming in, probably a little bit more neutral now. And that's really, we're seeing that across markets, that power prices, the trend is bullish long term. It's quite different from gas. The trend is bullish long term, but short term, we are below the cloud. Gas prices, if we look at TTF, we are now just below the cloud on the lagging line, but not on the price. That suggests support around 80 euros. We're still sitting at 96. We've got some downside targets to 88. Be interesting to see if those are met. Keep an eye on your 1 minute charts, especially on your OTC. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.